The first time I saw it, I thought my eyes were lying to me. A massive mansion, gleaming white walls, towering windows, a driveway paved with marble standing tall right in the middle of my land. Not a foot over the line. Not a mistake. The HOA president herself had built an entire palace on property that legally belonged to me. And then she had the audacity to stand on that marble driveway, arms crossed, smug grin plastered on her face, and tell me, "You're trespassing. This is HOA land now. You need to leave before I call security." My land, my family's land. The soil that had been in my name for generations. And this woman thought she could steal it, wrap it in chandeliers and fences, and pretend it was hers. My blood boiled. But I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I just smiled and said 5 words that wiped that smirk clean off her face. "See you in the courtroom." Because what she didn't know was that every inch of that property, every acre beneath her mansion, was locked down by ironclad deeds, historic surveys, and state-verified boundaries. She thought she had power because she wore the title HOA president. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. The weeks leading up to court were chaos. She paraded around the neighborhood like a queen, bragging about her victory, telling everyone how she'd finally expanded HOA land and forced out a squatter. Meanwhile, I gathered every shred of proof, every piece of history, every witness who knew the truth. When the court date came, she walked in dressed like royalty, flanked by her lawyer, her board members whispering behind her. She oozed arrogance, like the outcome was already hers. She sat down, crossed her legs, and whispered loud enough for me to hear. "Hope you said goodbye to that shack of yours. It'll make a great guest house." But the moment the judge called my name, I dropped the binder on the table so hard, the sound echoed. Inside that binder was the destruction of her entire empire of lies. Her lawyer started strong, waving glossy photos of the mansion. "Your Honor, clearly this property has been developed and maintained by the HOA president, who has invested millions into the land. The defendant has no rightful claim here." I stood and cut him off. "Your Honor, I have the deeds, I have the maps, and I have 100 years of history that prove otherwise." The judge raised a brow. "Proceed." I slid the documents forward. Notarized deeds dating back to my grandfather. Boundary surveys stamped and sealed by the county. Tax receipts showing decades of payments all under my family's name. Then I dropped the hammer. Drone footage, survey maps overlaid with satellite images, and even HOA meeting transcripts where she bragged about expanding HOA territory, without ever mentioning whose land she was actually building on. The courtroom gasped. She shifted in her chair, her smirk cracking. I leaned forward, voice sharp as steel. "She didn't expand HOA territory. She stole my land. She built her palace on property she never owned, and she's been charging fees to neighbors, parading as if she's the queen of ground she never had the right to touch." The judge's gavel came down hard. "Enough," he turned to her. "Do you have any evidence to prove this land belongs to you?" Her lawyer scrambled. She stammered about community development and improvements, but improvements don't erase ownership. Improvements don't rewrite deeds. The judge slammed the gavel again. "The deeds are clear. This land belongs to the defendant." Case closed. Silence. Then the explosion of whispers. Her face went pale, her kingdom crumbling before her eyes. And then came the final blow. The judge wasn't done. "Furthermore, since you constructed this mansion illegally on land you do not own, the defendant has full rights to seize the property or demand immediate demolition at your expense." Her jaw hit the floor. The neighbors who had once feared her now chuckled in disbelief. And me, I just leaned back in my chair, calm and victorious. Because in one ruling, the tables had turned. The mansion she flaunted as her throne was now mine. Every chandelier, every slab of marble, every brick legally mine. When I walked out of that courtroom, she couldn't even look me in the eye. By the end of the week, movers were clearing her things out. The HOA board dissolved into chaos. The so-called queen had been dethroned, stripped of everything. And there I stood, on my land, watching the sun set behind the mansion she built with arrogance and lies. Except now, it wasn't hers, it was mine. So when people ask me what it feels like to beat an HOA president at her own game, I tell them this: it feels like justice. It feels like watching arrogance turn to dust. And it feels damn good knowing that sometimes, the land itself chooses its rightful owner. Because she thought her title gave her power. She thought her mansion made her untouchable. But in the end, the law doesn't bow to titles or marble driveways. The law bows to truth. And the truth is simple. She built her empire on my land. And in court, I took it all back.